Notre Dame gets a gigantic win on the road against Texas A&M. I mean, this was one of those old-fashioned defensive slugfest. The quarterback play wasn't really that good. Connor Wigman was really underwhelming, to put it nicely. I mean, his two
Yes.
interceptions were inexcusable, but the defenses really showed up to play. And with this win, I really believe that it legitimizes Notre Dame as a true playoff contender because from this point on, they don't really have too many tough games. And with the way this defense was able to control the line of scrimmage, they were able to lock down Texas A&M's wide receivers. And despite Texas A&M losing a lot of talent to the portal, I mean, from a talent standpoint, they still have one of the 10 best rosters in America. So, how are you feeling about Notre Dame after this performance on the road in Aggie Land?
I mean, I would think that they should go 12-0, but that's should, and should doesn't always happen in college football. I mean, as we saw today, A&M was favored to win this game. Oregon was favored to, blow out Idaho and they didn't. Um, People thought that West Virginia would do much better against Penn State. But just looking at how Notre Dame matches up with the rest of the teams on their schedule, you got Northern Illinois, Purdue, Miami of Ohio, Louisville, Stanford, Georgia Tech, Navy, Florida State, Virginia Army, and USC. Some on the road, some neutral field. All of those are Notre Dame's remaining opponents. And I don't know a single one of those games where right now I would pick Notre Dame to lose.
Yeah,
I
like
don't.
for all the people that always are like Notre Dame's always overrated, why are they always ranked so high going into the season? You watched their play against Texas A&M tonight. I mean, although they are inexperienced, they don't return a lot of production from last year's team. This is probably the best Notre Dame team that I've ever watched in terms of just how dominant they've been from start to finish on the defensive side of the football. This is a defense that has a good secondary. They got multiple guys on the D line that can get after the quarterback. Not only are they a playoff team, but I don't think they're going to be one and done in the playoffs. They potentially could make it to the Final Four with how good they are defensively. You're going to be hard pressed to find too many teams that can match the physicality that Notre Dame has. And Riley Leonard, I'm not that high on him. You know, he's not the greatest passer in the world, but he's a really tough runner. He's really gutsy, and he came through when it mattered the most. And you know, their running back, Jeremiah Love, I love his playing style. Notre Dame always has bruisers as running backs. They're really physical, not really finesse. They just want to run through you. They get north and south. I mean, this is a Notre Dame team that is not overrated, and they showed that tonight. They more than have enough to be able to be a serious threat come playoff time and maybe win a playoff game or two. Now,
Yeah, I mean, the only reason it's partly, I don't know, because yeah, Notre Dame is a team that a lot of people do love to criticize and get on, but at the same time, looking at A&M and M and the fact that they are a new team with a new head coach, the quarterback was rather underwhelming, not even factoring in the defense. With Notre Dame's schedule, depending on how the chips fall, couldn't you also say that you may not know much about this team in relationship to how like elite they are at all? Because if USC is not, if they aren't good, if Georgia Tech isn't top 25 or top 20, if Florida State doesn't rebound, who else is on their schedule? There's no one who had a better shot of being top 10 based off of coaching and returning production and roster talent via recruiting than A&M. And they lost by double digits and got, I mean, defensively dominated
at home,
and worn down.
like it's not easy to go on the road and win at College Station. And this is
No,
a
it's not.
game where if you were taking Texas A&M to win outright, you weren't thinking that, yeah, they were going to get manhandled on the line of scrimmage. Their receivers were just going to get absolutely blanketed by Notre Dame secondary. You probably would have thought this game would have been somewhat of a shootout. Am I wrong?
I don't know exactly because A&M really they did have good pieces on defense. They really did. I mean, whether it's Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart, Nick Scorton, Will Lee. I mean, they have players on defense. And they also have players on offense, but I mean, their D line's better than their O line. And it's the same with Notre Dame. I picked Notre Dame to win and originally had A&M winning earlier in the preseason, but I always thought this was going to be a game whose total would be in like the mid upper 40s. It never came across to me as a shootout. It was just who would be better in the trenches and which quarterback would make the occasional clutch play. And that turned out to be Riley Leonard because he ran well, didn't turn it over. Meanwhile, Wiegman, who I had is close to an All-American in the preseason, looked awful. So that's a bust on my end.
And what also makes me believe in Notre Dame more after this win is the fact that there were a few moments during this game where they went for it on fourth down on their own end of the field. They get stopped. They give Texas A&M favorable field position, and yet they still win the game. You have to be a really great team to still be able to find a way to seek out a win despite having certain situations like those not go your way.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And I think that, I kind of shifted my chips a little bit. I didn't release a coaching ranking for this season, but I rated Marcus Freeman higher than part of me wanted to entering this year. And after today, I think that paid off. I mean, Notre Dame did what they had to do, and they trusted themselves to win. And they came out with a win. And at this point, based off of how that team played, the schedule they have, which is very nicely spaced out, they should go 12-0. At minimum 11-1. I mean, I don't see Florida State beating them. I don't see Georgia Tech beating them. I don't see USC beating them. I don't see Louisville. I mean, who's beating this team when they play at a B level or higher relative to their ceiling? I don't think anyone on their schedule will, unless maybe USC, everything falls right for them. But that's a hard ask for any team in college football.